Welcome to High Cheese. It's Friday, October 4th, 2024. And I wanted to lead with J.D. Vance's win at the debate this week, but I got to talk about this response from the Kamala Harris administration to the hurricane that's devastated parts of North Carolina, Georgia, Florida. Because this is indicative of how this administration views the American people. So we've had a devastating hurricane, and Kamala Harris comes in, makes a quick appearance, doesn't take any questions, and says that we're going to give the people devastated by the hurricane $750. $750. Meanwhile, we've given over $100 billion to the people of Ukraine, billions of dollars for illegal migrants in this country, and the Kamala Harris administration throws the American people some bones. Yeah, here's $750. We'll see what we can do after that. And one thing you have to understand is that we don't rate with this administration. It's people from other countries. It's people with their own agenda in Washington. And remember, they did the same thing to the people in Maui when they had the devastating fires. I think they gave the people in Maui the same amount of money, around the same amount of money. But we don't rate. It's other people that do. And this press appearance by Kamala Harris, this $750, is just shows us what they think of us. Now, the DH Secretary, Mayorkas, came out and said that FEMA's running out of money. It may not have enough money to deal with the hurricane season. Yet they've earmarked almost $1 billion for helping the migrants. And this is just through FEMA. And they don't want to use that money to help the people of North Carolina, Georgia, Florida. And Mayorkas is saying, oh, that money's earmarked for the migrants. We can't use that. It's illegal. And I say BS on that. I know enough about government that if they wanted to do it, they can do it. All the White House has to do is get some of their attorneys together, probably in the DOJ, to write an opinion on whether they can move that money that has been earmarked for migrants to be used for the people that have been devastated by the hurricane, Americans that have been devastated by the hurricane. But again, we don't rate with the people of Washington. It's other people. Not us, not Americans. And then there's been a lot of reports that the federal government is inhibiting American citizens from trying to find their families, trying to help out. There's a report that the federal government is trying to ban private citizens from flying drones, trying to look for their families or their neighbors or just to help out. And this is the schism that we have between the federal government and the citizens of America. Oh, no, you can't help it. Only we can help. Only we can do it, not you. Who cares if people die? You're not going to help. We're going to do it. And you wonder why the American people are fed up with people in Washington. We're the experts. We're the experts at saving people, not you. You can't fly a drone. You can't try to help find your family, your neighbors. And it's an absolutely absurd policy that they have. Just absolutely absurd policy. But again, this is just indicative of the dislike and likely hate that the Democrat Party, the Uniparty, the entrenched power structure in Washington has for the American people. And I want to juxtapose this with Donald Trump. Donald Trump, relatively speaking, was there well before Kamala Harris. He bought private provisions. He committed private money to help, and he was there. Meanwhile, there was a report that during all of this, Kamala Harris was at some party in California. And it was funny is that the mainstream media is still trying to create some kind of alternate reality regarding Donald Trump. There was one talking head, I think it was on MSNBC. They were saying, well, Donald Trump is just not empathetic. He's not a good guy for these this kind of catastrophe. He's just not empathetic. Meanwhile, Trump is bringing millions of dollars and millions of dollars of provisions to the people of North Carolina and Georgia. He's committed private funding to help these people, but he's not empathetic. It's just an alternate perception that the left wing has. And they want the American people to believe that Donald Trump is some type of unempathetic person. Well, the proof is in the pudding. And the proof is that Donald Trump has done more for the people of North Carolina and Georgia in these first few weeks than the federal government has. But he's not empathetic. And that's the bizarre reality that the left wing wants the American people to believe. But it's not working. Okay, let's talk about the debate. And J.D. Vance was the clear winner in this debate. Just a clear winner. He commanded the stage. He controlled the facts. And he touched on most of the points that the American people want to hear regarding how to fix this country. And you take a look at Walz. He really did. He came across as a wild-eyed weirdo. Just flailing out there. Didn't command many facts. Didn't want to answer any questions, particularly about his misleading comments that he's had throughout his career. And with that said, I want to play a clip. And there were many highlights in J.D. Vance's performance, but I want to start with just one. And this has to do with J.D. Vance's position on these so-called experts. All these so-called Washington experts. So let's go to this clip with J.D. Vance talking about experts. And then we'll come back and discuss.
You say trust the experts, but those same experts for 40 years said that if we shipped our manufacturing base off to China, we'd get cheaper goods. They lied about that. They said if we shipped our industrial base off to other countries, to Mexico and elsewhere, it would make the middle class stronger. They were wrong about that. They were wrong about the idea that if we made America less self-reliant, less productive in our own nation, that it would somehow make us better off, and they were wrong about it. And for the first time in a generation, Donald Trump had the wisdom and the courage to say to that bipartisan consensus, we're not doing it anymore. We're bringing American manufacturing back. We're unleashing American energy. We're going to make more of our own stuff. And this isn't just an economic issue.
And what Vance is talking about is these terrible trade policies that have been pushed by Washington over the past 40 years at least. All this did was put the American worker in competition with other countries where they paid people $2 a day. And all that did is just reduce wages for the American middle class because they were now out of jobs. Meanwhile, these big international corporations, they benefited from it. And this was the agenda of Washington over the past 40 years. To hell with the American people. The heck with the American middle class. Meanwhile, we had these open borders which flooded fentanyl into the country, which had a devastating effect on these areas of the country that have been devastated by these trade policies. And this is what Donald Trump and J.D. Vance are fighting. Trump was very successful in his first term with renegotiating certain trade policies, pulling out of other trade policies that did not benefit the American middle class. And again, this is just not the working class we're talking about. This is about the entire middle class. Upper, lower. But again, these experts, it's nothing more than just an agenda for them. It's really not based in a well-thought-out plan. It's about an agenda to help certain people, not the American people, a small amount of American people. And this is why they want a small elite group of people to govern this country. Because it's not about your benefit, it's about their benefit. There's national security issues also. Look at U.S. Steel. We got to have a strong steel manufacturing base in this country because of national security. Look about all the drugs that are being created overseas. We need those drugs to be made here. And all you get from the Kamala Harris Biden administration is all talk at this point. They say they're doing something, but they haven't done anything. And you think about the big blunders that we've seen from our experts. Not only with these trade policies, but let's take a look at the Iraqi war. Remember the CIA director, the expert? Oh, this is a slam dunk. How about the 51 spooks before the 2020 election saying that the laptop was Russian misinformation? These are the experts. No, they're not experts. They're pushing an agenda. And Vance did a really good job just summing up why Americans are ultimately going to vote for Donald Trump. So let's go to this next clip. And Vance really hits the nail on the head here. So let's take a look.
So what Tim Walz is doing, and I honestly, Tim, I think you got a tough job here because you've got to play whack-a-mole. You've got to pretend that Donald Trump didn't deliver rising take-home pay, which of course he did. You've got to pretend that Donald Trump didn't deliver lower inflation, which of course he did. And then you've simultaneously got to defend Kamala Harris's atrocious economic record, which has made gas, groceries, and housing unaffordable for American citizens. I was raised by a woman who would sometimes go into medical debt so that she could put food on the table in our household. I know what it's like to not be able to afford the things that you need to afford. We can do so much better. To all of you watching, we can get back to an America that's affordable again. We just got to get back to common sense economic principles.
And that was a really good moment for J.D. Vance. But I want to switch over to Walz. And quite frankly, Walz was extremely nervous. Early on, he had referenced, or he had called Israel Iran or Iran Israel. He later on said that he was friends with a school shooter. But I want to play a clip because he was asked about one of the lies he has stated in the past. And one of these lies is he said he was in China during the Tiananmen Square revolt, which turned out not to be true. So when he was asked about it, he just babbled. He called himself a knucklehead, talked about anything but this lie that he told many people in the past. But the surprising thing is that the moderator pushed back. He goes, well, wait a second. You didn't answer the question. You said you were in China during the Tiananmen Square rally, but you weren't. What do you have to say about it? So let's listen to his babbling response.
The question was, can you explain the discrepancy?
All I said on this was I got there that summer and misspoke on this. So I will just, that's what I've said. So I was in Hong Kong and China during the democracy protest went in. And from that, I learned a lot of what needed to be in governance.
Thank you, Governor. Senator.
And you should have saw the look on his face when she pushed back. Became wide-eyed. Oh, my God, I got to answer this again? And listen to his answer. He just folded back. Oh, I misspoke. You know what that means in political terms? You lied. And he just babbled something about what he's learned. And then he just babbled about, well, I was in China, but you weren't there during Tiananmen Square. And this is what the Democrats want you to vote for. All right, I want to switch topics, and I want to go to an article. Believe it or not, it's from CNN, and it has to do with Asheville, North Carolina, which really got hit hard by the hurricane. And it has to do with a lot of these climate refugees. These leftist climate refugees were flocking to Asheville, North Carolina, because they deemed it as a climate change safe space. And the reason I'm going to read this article, but it just points out the short-sightedness and the stupidity of some of these people. Now, I don't wish any ill will, and I hope all the people that had moved there are all safe, but this whole climate change is just making people irrational. And let me go to the article. It says here, so-called climate migrants have long been arriving here from places like California, Arizona, and the coastal Carolinas. said Jesse Keenan, associate professor of sustainable real estate and urban planning at Tulane University. In online forums discussing where to escape heat, floods, and fire, Asheville consistently comes up. One poster wrote in 2019 they didn't want to be in a place that has constant threat of natural disasters that will destroy our property, so we are planning on moving to the Asheville area. Even the climate experts who called Asheville home believed that they were insulated from the worst risks. Susan Hassel, a veteran climate change communicator and science writer, said she and others have labored under the illusion that we live in a relatively climate-safe place. But much of the Asheville area is shaped like a bowl, meaning torrential rain can quickly funnel down and inundate neighborhoods. It's a mountainous area, the hill slopes, and are very steep. It doesn't take a lot of rain to create a landslide. Asheville, in the foothills of the Blue Ridge Mountains and at the intersection of two major rivers, is vulnerable to flooding and has a long history to attest to that. In 1916, back-to-back hurricanes dumped relentless rain on Asheville and other parts of western North Carolina, triggering biblical flooding that has washed away houses and killed around 80 people. Almost the exact same scenario played out in 2004 when Tropical Storm Ivan and Francis tracked along the Appalachians. Both systems concentrated their higher rainfall on western North Carolina, killing 11 people. Most recently, Tropical Storm Fred caused catastrophic flooding in 2021, prompting a major disaster declaration. So this is what I don't understand. People that are climate change refugees moving to different areas, why are they moving to areas that have shown that there is a history of flooding? You know why? Because I don't think they're that bright. I don't think they even did the research on this. And this is what gets me. If you watch the news today, you would think that this is the first time there was flooding in Asheville. And it's just pointed out there's a history of flooding, terrible flooding in Asheville. So why are these people flocking there? Because they're not very bright. They've been indoctrinated. And again, I don't wish them any ill will, and I hope they're all safe. But this climate change hysteria that's being pushed by the press are causing people to make bad decisions. And like I said, a lot of these people aren't bright. They don't look at history. They don't know the topography of the land. But yet they go there. It just doesn't make sense. So we shall see. Gordon Sondland. Gordon Sondland, a former ambassador under Donald Trump, who testified against Donald Trump at his second impeachment hearings, and who after J6 said he could never support Trump. I think he actually resigned also. So he was on Ari Melber this week from MSNBC. And boy, did Melber get a surprise. And I'm going to go to the clip in a minute, but apparently Melber had Peter Navarro, got out of prison about a month ago, and Sondland and some other liberal hack. And I guess they had bought Sondland up along with the additional liberal hack to beat up on Navarro. But things didn't go too well for Melber on this show. He was quite surprised. So let's go to this clip, and I think you'll enjoy it.
A no for you after that. Why was it important for you to say no more Trump because of his January 6th conduct, and do you stand by that?
No, I don't stand by it, and I'll tell you why. I've now lived 4 years under the Biden-Harris policies, and I have to say that those policies are not only becoming an existential threat to our country's way of life, but to our allies as well.
So when you I'll let you finish, but this is so striking. You said it was a no for me after that, after January 6th. I did. And here we are right now.
I did.
And you're saying it's a yes for you.
It is a yes for me. It is an absolute yes for me. That is how badly the Biden-Harris team have prosecuted their job.
But the whole point you seemed to be making was that January 6th and that kind of attack on democracy is bigger than any
But
policy.
I am seeing so many attacks on democracy that eclipse January 6th.
Oh boy, that was a surprise for Melber. But you see his response? He starts yelling at Sondland. And that's all you can do when you have nothing left. Just pound the table. But Sondland is just indicative of this shift that is going toward Donald Trump headed into the last 30 days of this election. And it's all about the swing state polls. Trump is coming out on top. Now, you have to understand, it's going to be a close election, even in these swing states. You got to get out and vote. But you can sense the shift headed toward Donald Trump. Harris is just not a good candidate. She's a socialist. Her administration has wreaked nothing but havoc on this country. Meanwhile, Donald Trump is the candidate of hope. Hope and joy. He's the candidate of hope and joy, not Kamala Harris. But, like I said, you have to get out there and vote. Make sure that you vote yourself, get friends and family to go out and vote. So we shall see. So the Longshoremen announced today that they're going back to work. And they're trying to give the appearance that this contract issue has been settled, and it hasn't been settled. All they've done is just extend the existing contract to January 15th. January 15th, 5 days before a new administration comes in, Donald Trump's administration comes in. And to me, that's just a tactic. It's a tactic by the left to try to hamstring Donald Trump as soon as he gets into office. Because I'll be very surprised if they are able to settle anything before January 15th. Now, they've announced also that they're giving the Longshoremen, I think, a 60% increase over 8 years. But I still don't believe that. It's all talk right now. Until a contract is ratified by the rank and file, it's all talk. And did you see the story on this union head? I think his last name is Daggett. Lives in a huge mansion in New Jersey, drives a Bentley. I think he's making nearly $1 million a year. And this Daggett is just indicative of how the heads of these unions have sold out the rank and file over the years. It's not about the rank and file, it's about them. So Daggett has thrown Harris a bone by just extending the existing contract until January 15th. Now, it's funny. I went to Costco the other day. People were just freaking out. They were just running around looking for toilet paper, any kind of paper products. And I just find it odd as heck. People love to be scared. People love to be panicked. And I think this is more indicative of the Harris voter than the Trump voter. Because I really do believe that many of these Democrats that are voting for Harris, they want to be afraid. They want to be in this constant state of fear so somebody can take care of them. So they don't have to focus on anything else in their life. Just be fearful. But this is no resolution, and don't believe the headlines that say this is some kind of resolution to the strike. They're going back to work, but like I said, I doubt if they'll come to any kind of settlement between now and January 15th. And don't be surprised if they go back on strike on January 15th, just to create havoc. And this is being generated by the union leadership, not by the rank and file, but the union leadership. They're in bed with the Democrats. Now, many of the unions out there are, particularly the Teamsters, they figured it out. The rank and file figured it out. And quite frankly, I think the Longshoremen are going to be voting for Trump anyway, if you ask them privately. Oh, and one last thing before I go. Donald Trump is going back to Butler tomorrow, Saturday. And he's going to have Elon Musk with him. And this is what we love about Donald Trump. This is what makes him so American. He's got a lot of courage. He's going back to the place where someone tried to kill him. And this is courage. And this is what we want from our leaders, courage. And with that said, thank you very much for listening. You have a good week, and I will talk to you next Saturday.